for 50%.
When you can't watch, listen. Get the latest news, business, and news headlines on SiriusXM. Anytime, anywhere. Fox News Audio on SiriusXM. America is listening.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Marianne Rafferty, live in Los Angeles. There are reports of deaths and people trapped after a powerful tornado tore through rural Mississippi. Numerous people are also said to be injured, and there is widespread damage. The worst destruction reportedly northeast of Jackson in the rural towns of Silver City, Rolling Fork, and Amory. The violent storm moving across several southern states, prompting authorities to warn people in its path that they are in a, quote, life-threatening situation. The National Weather Service even issuing an alert that didn't mince words, claiming, quote, to protect your life, take cover now. A former mayor of Rolling Fork told a local television station that a tornado blew the windows out of the back of his house. And the Sharkey County Sheriff's Office reporting gas leaks and also people trapped in piles of rubble. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves said in a Twitter post that search and rescue teams are active and that more ambulances and emergency assets are being sent to those areas that are affected. The governor also saying, quote, many in the Mississippi Delta need your prayers and God's protection. The Storm Prediction Center is saying the greatest threat of tornadoes overnight will be in Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee. Storms with damaging winds and hail are also forecast from eastern Texas and southeastern Oklahoma into parts of southeastern Missouri and southern Illinois. Once again, if you're just joining us, there are reports of deaths after a very powerful twister slammed into the rural Mississippi towns of Rolling Fork and Silver City, also Amory. Local officials saying numerous people are injured and many of them are still trapped. Stay with Fox News Channel for more on this developing story out of Mississippi. Now back to regular programming already in progress.
Use them to get further, obviously, into the interior. A blessed weekend, and I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Marianne Rafferty, live in Los Angeles. There are reports at this hour of deaths and people trapped after a powerful tornado tore through rural Mississippi. Numerous people are also said to be injured, and there's widespread catastrophic damage. The worst destruction is reportedly northeast of Jackson in the rural towns of Silver City, Rolling Fork, and Amory. The violent storm moved across several southern states, prompting authorities to warn people in its path that they were in a life-threatening situation. The National Weather Service even issuing an alert that didn't mince words, exclaiming, quote, to protect your life, take cover now. A former mayor of Rolling Fork told a local television station that a tornado blew the windows out of the back of his house, and the Sharkey County Sheriff's Office reporting gas leaks and people trapped in piles of rubble. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves saying in a Twitter post that search and rescue teams are active and that more ambulances and emergency assets are being sent to those affected areas. The governor also saying, quote, many in the Mississippi Delta need your prayers and God's protection. The Storm Prediction Center is saying the greatest threat of tornadoes overnight will be in Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee. Storms with damaging winds and hail also forecast from eastern Texas and southeastern Oklahoma into parts of southeastern Missouri and southern Illinois. Let's go now to Fox Weather meteorologist Ian Oliver, who's standing by with the very latest. Ian, it's been a very busy night, but talk about the length, the track of this storm and all of these rural towns that were hit very hard, it sounds like.
Yeah, Marianne, as you mentioned, this has been a horrific night of severe weather, this outbreak of tornadoes across the South. This is something that we feared in the Fox Weather Forecast Center. Forecast models over the last several days had been indicating that this potential was here. The threat for long-lived, intense tornadoes, which is exactly what developed and moved across effectively the entire state of Mississippi. As you mentioned, the storm developed here, just off to the east of the Mississippi River, that was moving through places like Rolling Fork and Silver City, where sadly the National Weather Service has confirmed at least one fatality. A very powerful storm that was continuously on the ground, this tornado, for at least 90 miles. From there, it cycled somewhere near Interstate 55. This tornado lifted, but then from there, it dropped again, every bit as intense as it was when it was producing storm reports like this one out of Rolling Fork. We've got pictures of completely destroyed structures and the search and rescue efforts here brutal. Of course, we know that overnight tornadoes are always more dangerous and more deadly. In this case, we've got widespread power outages in these areas, and many of the roads are impassable because of trees, of course, coming down on the roadways and blocking. This was that report that we got in from the National Weather Service. We fear, sadly, that this number is going to go up, but this was an adult male that was killed by this tornado in Silver City. 2 children in critical condition after they were trapped in their home after this tornado moved on through. From there, it progressed farther off to the east. This was moving at a rate off to the east-northeast at about 50 to 55 miles per hour. It was about here, Marianne, near Winona, where the tornado started to weaken and lift. But from here, it dropped once again, every bit as intense as it was when it first developed. We measured a debris signature here, northeastern parts of Mississippi, and then moving into Alabama. The debris signature on Doppler radar was about 1.5 miles wide.
Yeah, some of those earlier pictures that we were able to see, a storm chaser referred to it as a wedge tornado, that it was so wide that it was hard to make out exactly where the rotation was. Can you talk about that and the fact that that maybe was indicative of this being a very strong tornado? Yeah.
Early indications is that this was certainly a very high-end tornado, perhaps EF4 or even greater. What we saw on Doppler radar was debris, non-meteorological targets that the radar was scanning the storm and seeing actual debris being lofted up into the air more than 20,000 feet. And it's only the most intense tornadoes that can loft debris that far up into the atmosphere. So that was a very concerning signature. The overall path of this, as you indicated, was over 200 miles. Now, that tornado wasn't on the ground for that entire 200 miles, but it was the same thunderstorm cell that was producing that tornado across its lifespan. At least 4 tornado emergencies were issued by the National Weather Service. They save tornado emergencies for only when there is a significant threat to both life and property, which was clearly the case with these storms as we move through the latter portion of Friday evening.
And when you see just some of the pictures that are coming out, it is really hard to tell what stood where in some of these towns. Again, maybe speaking to the intensity of the tornadoes and the fact that we're still getting so many reports that there are untold numbers of people that are still trapped. But unfortunately, because it's dark, that's going to hamper efforts quite a bit. Right here in this video, you see it looks like people searching for anyone that they can find and trying to help. Can you talk about what's going to happen tomorrow when the sun comes up? That's when the National Weather Service will go in and try to figure out just how intense the storm was, as well as emergency crews being able to do a more thorough search.
Yeah, the National Weather Service will send out storm survey crews with the EF scale. That they'll determine the rating of this tornado. Engineers determine the structural integrity of some of the homes, the businesses that were damaged by this, and that's how they'll get an estimate of the wind speed from this. But exactly what you pointed out, an important part of this is that we're just barely into the very beginning of the springtime severe weather season. This is when we expect, of course, not to this intensity, the magnitude, the scope of this event. This is when we expect severe weather in these areas, but through the winter season, this has been a painfully active setup. There is severe weather fatigue, and as you pointed out, storms like this, tornadoes through the overnight period, are a factor of about 2 more deadly than storms that occur during the daytime hours. 1, because people are sleeping, of course, and 2, because in the darkness you can't see these storms approaching. So it will be daylight tomorrow that reveals the true scope of what's a tragic setup that just occurred there in Mississippi. We've got some storms still progressing off to the east from here, some severe thunderstorm warnings, northwestern parts of Georgia and into East Tennessee, still representing a strong straight line wind threat. We could still see some wind gusts up over 60 miles per hour as the storm system moves east.
Yeah, so Ian, people need to stay vigilant. Fox weather meteorologist Ian Oliver, thank you so much for all of that insight. And now we want to go to a storm chaser. His name is Zachary Hall. He's a storm chaser from Arkansas. Zachary, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Were you on the ground tonight when this was happening?
Yes, me and my partner Frankie Shepard. We were in Rolling Fork. We drove south of town and actually witnessed the tornado right before it moved into the town, unfortunately.
Can you tell us what you could see? Because, again, I've heard this described as a wedge tornado, this first one that hit Rolling Fork. Can you talk about what you saw?
Yes, it was a very large tornado. It had, from what we could see, was a large tornado and had horizontal vortices, which is usually reserved for the strongest tornadoes. It had a loud roar, train-like noise, very spooky, and it's dark, so you're only able to see the tornado with lightning flashes. And we unfortunately watched this tornado track into town before we had to turn back around, and then the rain obscured our view. But yeah, it was a scary situation for sure.
Did you go into the town of Rolling Fork? Were you able to do anything? I know that I had heard reports that some of the storm chasers themselves found themselves trying to help people get medical care and get to hospitals and things like that.
Yeah, we were actually, if not the first people in town, one of the first few people in town, and encountered the horrible damage in the town. And of course, that led to search and rescue efforts and assisting medical response in any way we could. It was not a fun scene, that's for sure.
Can you just describe for us what you saw when you got to Rolling Fork? I know it was dark,
yeah,
but what you could see.
Vehicles flipped over, buildings completely destroyed. Unfortunately, there was mobile homes in the city that were just completely shredded. You could smell the natural gas. There was power lines that were ripped into the roadways. Everything you can imagine from a total devastation standpoint is what we witnessed when we came into town. And then, of course, that had, we had people who had been tossed around in the tornado. We had people that were trapped, yelling for help. It was a war zone-like scene when we came into town.
Did you continue to follow the storm once it moved through Rolling Fork and tornadoes touched down, further away? Did you follow it further?
No, once we came into Rolling Fork, and it's kind of one of those things where as a storm chaser, when you come across a scene like that, the chase is over. You go into, I was able to get on social media and request help. We had local law enforcement that were requesting ambulances, search and rescue assistance. My partner, like I said, Frankie Shepard, immediately started doing search and rescue efforts, trying to help people out of the rubble. And the chase was over for us once we came into the town and saw that scene.
I can imagine, and I'm sure you were happy that you were safe and unharmed. Zachary, thank you so much for talking to us about your experience, and stay safe out there.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Once again, there are reports of deaths after a very powerful storm system moved through Mississippi. Several twisters touched down the towns of Rolling Fork, Silver City, also Amory, Mississippi, all sustaining what we're seeing as catastrophic damage. Local officials are saying that a number of people are injured and still trapped in huge piles of rubble. It is dark right now, so unfortunately it's going to take rescue crews some time to try and get to people that may need help, but the search and rescue operation is ongoing, we're being told right now. The violent storms moved across several southern states. One tornado was on the ground for about 80 miles, but the full path over 200 miles. Authorities were warning people at one point that they were in a life-threatening situation. The National Weather Service also telling people, protect your life, take cover now. This was as serious as a weather situation could possibly get. A former mayor of Rolling Fork described what he went through with his wife. He said they got in the bathtub as windows were being blown out and part of his home was destroyed. It's just Sharkey County Sheriff's Office reporting gas leaks. And again, as we said, people still trapped under rubble. Thousands upon thousands are without power right now. That's also hampering search and rescue efforts. We heard from the Mississippi Governor, Tate Reeves. He said in a Twitter post, search and rescue teams are still active out there and that more ambulances and emergency assets are being sent to the affected areas, and they're just trying to get to people as soon as they possibly can. And as the sun comes up later this morning, that's when there's going to be a true assessment of the damage from these devastating tornadoes, and also hopefully the search and rescue efforts will continue and people will be saved and taken care of. Again, if you're just joining us, reports of deaths after a very powerful storm system produced very damaging tornadoes. We're going to stay on top of this, and we'll bring you more. Stay with Fox News Channel for more on this story. We'll bring you the very latest as it happens. For now, back to our regular programming already in progress.
Decisive statements about white people. Her name is Kalisa Wing, and she was appointed as the DEI chief at the Pentagon.
800-779-7100. Again, that's 800-779-7100.
Make some noise!
Fox Monday. It's the iHeartRadio Music Awards with host Lenny Kravitz. And it all happens live. With Innovator Award recipient Taylor Swift and performances by Icon Award recipient Pink, Coldplay, Kelly Clarkson, Keith Urban, Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo, Lotto, Money Long, Cody Johnson, and more.
Thank you, iHeartRadio. I love you guys.
The iHeartRadio Music Awards this Monday live on Fox.
Saturdays, baseball's best are showing out on Fox. This is where MVPs are VIPs, and where aces always come in pairs. Saturday means it's showtime for Shohei and mealtime for Manny. All the swag, all the salt, and all the slams. The biggest games on the best day of the week. Fox Saturday Baseball returns April 1st.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Marianne Rafferty, live in Los Angeles. 10 people are dead and an unknown number of people are trapped after a powerful tornado tore through rural Mississippi. Numerous people are also said to be injured, and there's widespread catastrophic damage. The worst destruction is reportedly northeast of Jackson in the rural towns of Silver City, Rolling Fork, and Amory. The violent storm moving across several southern states and prompting authorities to give out very serious warnings. In the path there, in quote, a life-threatening situation. A former mayor of Rolling Fork telling a local television station that a tornado blew the windows out of the back of his home. In the Sharkey County Sheriff's Office reporting gas leaks and people trapped in piles of rubble. The Storm Prediction Center saying the greatest threat of more tornadoes overnight will be in Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee. I'm Marianne Rafferty. Now back to the Ingram Angle.
It is Friday, and that means it's time for Friday Follies. And for that, we turn to Fox News contributor, author of The Unexpected Light of Thomas Alva Edison, Raymond Arroyo. All right, Raymond, it's Friday, so I'm also granting you with family and friends this weekend, and it is America now and forever. Greg Gutfeld and the gang, they take it all from here.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Marianne Rafferty, live in Los Angeles. At least 10 people are dead and an unknown number of people are injured and trapped after a powerful tornado tore through rural Mississippi. The worst destruction reportedly northeast of Jackson in the rural towns of Silver City, Rolling Fork, and Amory. The violent storm moved across several southern states, prompting authorities to warn people in its path that they were, quote, in a life-threatening situation. The National Weather Service also issuing an alert saying to protect your life, take cover now. A former mayor of Rolling Fork telling a local television station that the tornado blew the windows out of the back of his home, and the Sharkey County Sheriff's Office reporting gas leaks and people still trapped in piles of rubble. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves also saying in a Twitter post that the search and rescue efforts were ongoing and that more ambulances and emergency assets are being sent to those areas that are affected. The governor also saying many in the Mississippi Delta need your prayers and God's protection. The Storm Prediction Center saying the greatest threat for more tornadoes overnight is in Arkansas, Louisiana, again in Mississippi and Tennessee. Storms with damaging winds and hail are also forecast from eastern Texas and southeastern Oklahoma into parts of southeastern Missouri and southern Illinois. Once again, if you're just joining us, 10 people now confirmed dead, an unknown number of people injured and possibly trapped after powerful twister slammed into rural parts of Mississippi, including the towns of Rolling Fork, Silver City, and Amory. Joining us now is Fox Weather meteorologist Ian Oliver with more on where this storm is tracking now. Ian?
Marianne, good evening. This has been a devastating night of severe weather as we track these powerful tornadoes that ripped across the state of Mississippi. The National Weather Service issued 4 tornado emergencies, which are reserved for only setups that present a significant threat to both life and property. What you're seeing here are the storm reports as these tornadoes ripped across the state of Mississippi, starting first near Rolling Fork, which, as you reported, now 10 fatalities across the state. This started and stayed on the ground continuously as an intense tornado for at least 90 miles. From there, the storm lifted, eventually producing a tornado again, every bit as strong as it was when it started back near the Mississippi River. This was a storm system that lofted up debris more than 20,000 feet up into the atmosphere. That only happens with very intense tornadoes. This is a storm report that was issued from the National Weather Service, a report of homes and structures completely destroyed there in Rolling Fork. Vehicles rolled over, and the big problem here, we know that overnight nocturnal tornadoes are always more dangerous and more deadly. The sun is down. It's knocked out power to all of these areas, and that complicates the search and rescue efforts as a lot of roads have become blocked. And of course, it was pitch black in these areas. Sadly, this was a storm report that came out of Silver City indicating that an adult male was killed there. 2 children in critical condition. They were sent to the hospital. In Winona, this was close to where the tornado was lifting, trees and power lines down there. But as I mentioned, some of those trees and power lines coming down over roads, and that was complicating some of these search and rescue efforts for the crews there. The storm reports from there passed farther off to the north into Alabama, where we saw numerous tornado reports as well. Unfortunately, this has been a catastrophic outbreak of severe weather. The National Weather Service will be sending storm survey crews up and down the path of these storms, which you do see extended for several hundred miles, not continuous tornado for that stretch, but one cell produced severe weather from Mississippi, the Mississippi River, all the way into northern parts of Alabama. From here, this powerful line of storms continues to progress across the southeast, still tracking some powerful thunderstorms. We've got numerous severe thunderstorm warnings through northern parts of Georgia, East Tennessee, and now crossing into North Carolina with some wind gusts possible even now through the overnight hours and into the early part of our Saturday, up over 60 miles per hour. And those threats will be there moving through the day until this eventually finds its way to the Atlantic coastline. From here, Marianne, this front gets hung up. We'll see the atmosphere recharging as we move on through the weekend. Temperatures south of that cold front, that boundary, trending 10 to as much as 20 degrees above average. A renewed severe weather threat developing for the second half of the weekend across the Mid-South. That's something we'll be watching very closely here on Fox Weather, and you can tune in for continuing coverage of this devastating outbreak of severe weather here on Fox Weather as we move on through the day today, all weekend on Fox Weather. Marianne?
Thanks again, Fox Weather meteorologist Ian Oliver. And again, if you're just joining us, at least 10 people now confirmed dead, and unknown people are believed to still be trapped under rubble. Many are probably injured after a powerful twister slammed into rural Mississippi. The towns of Rolling Fork, Silver City, and Amory taking the brunt of the tornado damage, which we're told is widespread and devastating damage at this hour. Rescue crews are out trying to search for survivors. When the sun comes up, the National Weather Service will be doing an assessment and learning more about just how strong these tornadoes were, and search and rescue teams will have an easier time trying to get to those survivors, people believed to be trapped under just what we're told are piles of rubble. Keep it here, Fox News Channel. We will bring you the very latest. For now, back to our regular programming already in progress.
Waves in opposition. Holden Hiscock is also an opponent. Waves in.
This This is a Fox News alert. I'm Marianne Rafferty, live in Los Angeles. At least 10 people are dead and an unknown number of people are injured and trapped after a powerful tornado tore through rural Mississippi. The worst of the destruction is reportedly northeast of Jackson in the rural towns of Silver City, Rolling Fork, and Amory. The violent storm moved across several southern states, prompting authorities to warn people that were in its path that they were, quote, in a life-threatening situation. The National Weather Service even issued an alert that didn't mince words, exclaiming, quote, to protect your life, take cover now. A former mayor of Rolling Fork told a local television station that the tornado blew the windows out of the back of his house, and the Sharkey County Sheriff's Office reported gas leaks and people still trapped in huge piles of rubble. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves saying in a Twitter post that the search and rescue teams are active and more ambulances and emergency assets are being sent to those areas that were affected. The governor also saying, quote, many in the Mississippi Delta need your prayers and they also need God's protection. The Storm Prediction Center saying that the greatest threat for tornadoes remains overnight in Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee. And the storms with damaging winds and hail are also forecast from eastern Texas and southeastern Oklahoma into parts of southeastern Missouri and southern Illinois. So this particular storm is not over yet. Once again, 10 people are confirmed dead, and at this hour, an unknown number of them are injured and still trapped in many of these towns that were hit. Joining us now is Michael Avesti. He is with Midwest Storm Trackers, and he was tracking the storm from the very beginning. Michael, can you tell us what you saw when it hit that first town of Rolling Fork earlier tonight?
So when we had tracked the storm up the highway towards Rolling Fork, it started to mature as it passed across the river. And the signature that was on radar was harrowing, to say the least. It matured exceptionally quickly as soon as it crossed the river. And it was clear that it was going to hit Rolling Fork. We decided to position a little bit north on Highway 14 to the northeast of Rolling Fork to kind of stay out of its way. And we saw power flashes as it came through the town and had to move out of its way once it started to affect Rolling Fork and then pass Highway 14.
Now, it's dark and you couldn't see it, but could you hear that tornado?
So where our position was, it was absolutely dead calm. It was almost as if there wasn't a storm ongoing at all. It wasn't until the tornado got within a quarter mile of us that the inflow channel started to pick up and tighten. And that's when we knew we needed to get out of there. But this particular situation, I haven't experienced before. Usually you can hear it. It sounds almost like a waterfall, or some people can say it sounds like a freight train. But here it was completely different. The dead calmness just it was very, very eerie. And to see the power flashes going on in Rolling Fork and knowing that the damage was being caused with no sound at all from where we were standing was frightening, to say the least.
Wow. Now, after you got out of the way of it, then you were able to get into Rolling Fork. Can you tell us what you saw when you got into that town?
The only thing I could compare it to is it looked like a bomb had went off. Houses were missing from their foundations. Debris was scattered everywhere. The smell of gas was pretty much near every property. It was very clear that this was just complete and total devastation. And it's very unfortunate that this happened. You know, as a storm chaser, you never want an event like this to unfold in this manner. You hope that the storms go across open land and don't affect anybody, maybe some farms, but no structures. But this is, very unfortunate, to say the least.
And there were several towns hit, and you said that you tried to go to the town of Amory to maybe volunteer and see what you could do to help. And tell us how that went and what is going on in that town right now.
So the radar indicated that there was a massive debris ball that had been approaching the town of Amory and it expanded quite a bit and looks like it took out the northern side of the town. Listening to the firefighter radio on the scanner, it was the things that they were saying, you could tell that they need help. So going up there, the police have all the roads blocked off. So to only allow official emergency services in there. I spoke with one of the police officers, and they had mentioned that there are a significant amount of gas leaks around the town, many power lines down. So for anybody to go in there who's an untrained professional would be very dangerous. So once they get that cleared up, I believe that they may accept volunteers. So my plan is to go back there later today and see if they'll accept volunteers and help with the relief efforts.
In your years of storm chasing, would you say this is one of the worst tornado events that you have seen?
Yes, this is, you could kind of compare it to December 10th of 2021 when Mayfield, Kentucky was impacted. I wasn't there for that event. This is my first significant tornado event where extreme amounts of damage has occurred. So trying to process all that information and really understand what I had just experienced and the other storm chasers who haven't experienced this before, how they're processing it. You know, the feelings that we have are, you know, how can we help? What can we do to make sure that something like this in the future, people can be better warned if they're not already able to know what to do in a situation like this, and just pray that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, Michael, just pray. That's very good advice right now for all of these people that are dealing with this tornado that has devastated several towns in rural Mississippi. We have now confirmed at least 10 people are dead and untold numbers of people still possibly trapped beneath piles and piles of rubble. Keep it here for the very latest. We'll keep you informed as far as where the rescue efforts are right now. And when the sun comes up, of course, those crews will have a much easier time trying to help folks. Keep it here. Stay with Fox News Channel for the very latest.
We love being...
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Marianne Rafferty in Los Angeles. At least 11 people are confirmed dead and an unknown number of people are injured and trapped in rubble after a powerful tornado tore through rural Mississippi. The worst of the destruction reportedly northeast of Jackson in the rural towns of Silver City, Rolling Fork, and Amory. The violent storm moved across several southern states. It prompted authorities to give people stark warnings like there's a life-threatening situation. The National Weather Service even issuing an alert that didn't mince words, exclaiming, quote, to protect your life and take cover now. A former mayor of Rolling Fork also described the tornado hitting his home, telling a local television station that the tornado blew the windows out of the back of his house. And the Sharkey County Sheriff's Office reporting several gas leaks and people still trapped in piles of rubble. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves saying in a Twitter post that search and rescue teams are active right now and that more ambulances and emergency assets are also being sent to help those who have been affected. The governor also saying, quote, many in the Mississippi Delta need your prayers and God's protection. And this storm is not over yet. Let's go now to Fox Weather meteorologist Jane Manar for the very latest on the track of the storm. Jane?
Hello, Marianne. Yeah, definitely just a devastating night. We saw these storms really start to fire up once the sun went down and tracked across Mississippi, where we saw the worst of the damage. This very strong tornado coming through Rolling Fork and then continued up across Interstate 55, where you can see all the number of tornado reports that continued into those overnight hours, excuse me. So we are going to continue to track the storms as we go through the morning hours. Here we are as we go into Alabama, as the same storm system really brought in some tornado reports across the northern tier of the state. But it's Mississippi that fared the worst, with the really most devastating outbreak that we had seen out of this one supercell that tracked over 80 miles. So here's a look at the number of storm reports that we saw overnight outside of the tornado threat. We had damaging wind gusts that went across Tennessee, northern Alabama, and then we are tracking that line of storms into North Georgia this morning. Current look at that radar, we still have a few severe thunderstorm warnings to track into the eastern portions of the Appalachians. A strong line of storms racing into the Atlanta metro this morning. Nothing severe within this line. We will likely track some gusty winds. Now, this is just the beginning of the day. We still have Saturday and even into the day tomorrow to get through with this storm system as it continues to slowly push its way eastward. With the severe thunderstorm warnings, we are tracking some gusty winds and the potential for some hail and heavy rain, but the Atlanta metro area needs to wake up this morning and be on alert as these storms come through in the next couple of hours. This is the severe thunderstorm threat that we watch for the day today. That threat really expanding across Georgia and into South Carolina, northern portions of Florida. That line is expected to slowly sag through the region. We'll tap back into instability. The threat for damaging winds and that isolated tornado still expected to exist into those afternoon hours. Here's the day on Sunday. So things start to reinvigorate once again as we go into the end of the weekend. We can't let our guard down. It extends back into Mississippi. Jackson, this is the area that was hit last night so devastatingly, and this is expected to open up as we go through the day on Sunday as these thunderstorms start to roll in once again through the afternoon and evening. The threat for damaging winds a possibility, as well as that isolated tornado. We're working to continue to coverage across the devastating damage in Mississippi in the overnight hours. We're going to be live on Fox Weather this morning. Make sure you tune in with us, but we are getting that imagery as it comes into us this morning. National Weather Service survey teams will be going out.
Well, Jane, it would be so devastating if those same areas get hit again. I mean, so people really do need to stay vigilant right now. Thank you, Jane Min, our Fox Weather meteorologist. We're going to go ahead and go to storm chaser Aaron Rigsby. We've got him on the phone to talk about what he saw during tonight's storms. Hi, Aaron.
Hi there. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Can you tell us what you saw tonight when the outbreak started?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those cases where this storm kind of went from looking, not too great. It was very disorganized for a long time, and it accelerated, from 0 to 100 in no time. It went from, kind of a small cylinder cone tornado, and within just a few lightning flashes, it quickly grew into a quarter-mile wide tornado, where it ended up crossing at pretty close range in front of me right before it unfortunately entered the town that we actually had to do search and rescue in.
Aaron, what town were you in?
That was in the town of Rolling Fork, Mississippi. I literally arrived there seconds after the tornado had hit. It was still pouring rain. There was lightning everywhere. There was still thunder. And there was just a constant rain of people yelling for help. So I quickly went to the nearest one that I could, where I went to one home, and I found a lady that had been trapped in her living room. It looked like she had gotten knocked over trying to get to cover, and we were able to take a lot of that debris off of her and free her and get a medical attention there, and we were able to get her on the stretcher and get out of the demolished home. And then we went to the home just across the street, which was even more severely damaged than her house, and her entire house had collapsed on her, but the couch that she was by had propped up the debris, and she was able to get out uninjured. We were using chainsaws to cut a bunch of the debris out of the way, and we were able to set her free, and she was able to give her family a big hug this evening, which was a pleasant sight to see.
Wow, that is heartwarming that so many people did make it out, that there are so many survivors, but we are unfortunately confirming now that at least 14 people are now confirmed dead. And Aaron, amazing that you were trying to help get people out of their homes. What did they say to you, right after this happened?
A lot of them were in a state of shock. The first lady that we came across, she was, her priority, she was really cold and wet because her roof was completely missing, so it was just pouring rain down on her. So we were able to go into one of her, the other rooms that were undamaged, and we got a bunch of blankets, and we were able to cover her up and keep her warm. That was her big priority, and she had just recently had surgery, so we were carefully trying to aid with her because she was complaining about an ankle injury. And a lot of the other people that we came up to were just very grateful. This town is in a very rural area of Mississippi, so the response time was a lot longer than usual. We were there for probably 30 to 45 minutes before we even saw ambulances start to trickle in there. Really, the only people there were locals that were uninjured and a few local deputies that just happened to be in the area at the time. They were just grateful to see someone talking to them and, coaching them through it and getting their nerves calmed down, to reevaluate the situation, to let them know that they were clear of the storm. And then another family had come up out of a house, and I was able to hold on to their little girl. She looked like she was about 8 years old, and I carried her, down from the debris while her family was able to walk down, and I was able to get them to shelter as well. So people were just incredibly grateful, and I think they were just very happy to see someone helping them right away because the response time, was so significant.
And people who were injured, I had heard that there was not a hospital available close. Can you tell us about that? And did you have to transport anyone yourself to try and get help?
That is correct. The nearest one, I believe, was Vicksburg. There could be something a little bit closer that I didn't know about, but I saw a very large response of ambulances and police officers coming out of the city of Vicksburg, which is about 45 miles south of this town. I aided in, kind of just keeping people dry. I was able to get them to my car, get them out of the rain, as many as I could. I did not have to transport anybody because I was we were all hard at work trying to unbury the uninjured that we could find and people trapped in their homes. So I honestly didn't really have a whole lot of time, but there were other good Samaritans in the town using their trucks and pieces of debris like wood to use as a backrest for people that had neck and back injuries, and they were being transported to nearby towns, I believe, in Vicksburg. I was actually behind one, and there was a gentleman holding one of the people in the back of the truck as they were driving slowly, transporting them to Vicksburg.
It really sounds like it's just really a group effort. I mean, everyone that's on the ground is having to help. And of course, all of this happened at night. I mean, the worst possible time for a storm to hit, especially a dangerous storm like this one. Were a lot of people caught off guard?
Absolutely. To my knowledge, I don't even think that the tornado sirens went off in their town. A lot of the multiple homes that we came across, you could tell that people knew something was coming because they could hear it, but they didn't get to their shelter in time. We found multiple people, especially in their living rooms or the centralmost part of their house, which is a good thing. But this tornado caught a lot of people absolutely off guard. I think it just developed so rapidly because, like I said, it started out as just kind of like a small cylinder cone tornado and just rapidly expanded into this huge tornado that unfortunately cut right through the center of Rolling Fork, Mississippi. It didn't clip town. It went right through the center of town. So all of those homes and businesses were just completely destroyed or very heavily damaged.
Aaron Rigsby, thank you so much, and especially for your heroic efforts and helping to rescue people right after this tornado hit. We appreciate you talking to us about it. And if you're just joining us, unfortunately, we're now confirming 14 people were killed when violent storms moved through, producing tornadoes that hit several towns in rural Mississippi, including Silver City, Rolling Fork, and Amory. The search and rescue efforts are still ongoing at this hour. It is still dark. When the sun comes up, the National Weather Service will go in and assess the damage and try and figure out just how strong these storms were, and also continue, hopefully, trying to find survivors. And what we're hearing are huge piles of rubble in multiple towns here in Mississippi. The search and rescue efforts are ongoing, and the storm, unfortunately, is not over. The Storm Prediction Center is saying that there is still a great threat of tornadoes overnight. Those threats are still in some of these states that were already hit, like Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, Tennessee, moving into Georgia as well. So folks still need to stay vigilant as these storms continue to move through, and the threat of more severe weather today and tomorrow. Stay with Fox News Channel for the very latest. Now back to our regular programming already in progress.
Breaking news coming in to Fox News at night. We are now getting word tonight of another deadly tragedy involving human smuggling of illegal immigrants in a train car located east of Uvalde, Texas. State
or visit CoventryDirect.com.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Marianne Rafferty, live in Los Angeles. At least 14 people are dead and an unknown number of others are injured and trapped after a powerful tornado tore through rural Mississippi. The worst of the destruction is reportedly northeast of Jackson in the rural towns of Silver City, Rolling Fork, and Amory. The violent storm moved across several southern states, prompting authorities to warn people in its path that they were in a, quote, life-threatening situation. The National Weather Service even issued an alert that didn't mince words, exclaiming, quote, to protect your life, take cover now. A former mayor of Rolling Fork told a local television station that the tornado blew the windows out of the back of his home, and the Sharkey County Sheriff's Office reporting gas leaks and people trapped in piles of rubble. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves saying in a Twitter post that search and rescue teams are active right now and that more ambulances and emergency crews are being sent to those in affected areas. The governor also said, quote, many in the Mississippi Delta need your prayers and God's protection. The Storm Prediction Center saying the greatest threat of tornadoes is in Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee. Storms with damaging winds and hail are also forecast today and tomorrow from eastern Texas and southeastern Oklahoma into parts of southeastern Missouri and southern Illinois. Once again, at least 14 people are confirmed dead now, with an unknown number of people believed injured and or trapped under huge piles of rubble after a powerful twister slammed into the rural Mississippi towns of Rolling Fork, Silver City, and Amory. Stay with Fox News Channel for more on this developing story. I'm Marianne Rafferty. Fox and Friends is live at the top of the hour.
Video out of Spokane, Washington, where a stranded hiker was airlifted to safety after being found in freezing temperatures. Volunteers with Spokane County Search and Rescue